You're listening to episode 67, Todd and Morgan's story, a son with biliary atresia and a liver transplant. Hi, and welcome to the Child Life On Call podcast. When your child is sick, the whole world seems to stop in its tracks. Plans and priorities change, and your number one job becomes figuring out how to get your child well again. For some of us, rest, medications, and relaxation can do the trick. But for others, it takes more. It takes countless doctor appointments, invasive medical testing, therapy, surgeries, the list goes on, and then you still may not have all of the answers or results you were hoping for. This podcast features parents of children that have an illness or medical condition and gives them a place to share their own journeys and experiences. We will talk about the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, but one thing seems to remain the same. Children are resilient and teach us more about ourselves and the world than we could ever imagine. Thank you so much for lending a listening ear and opening up your heart to these families and this podcast. I'm your host, Katie Taylor.
Needed to learn everything that we could because our son's life was literally on the line.
Hello, my friends. I am so happy that you are here this week to hear this amazing story about Todd and Morgan. I had the opportunity to interview a couple, you guys. This is our first mom and dad. If you've listened to previous episodes, you know I've had moms on the podcast. I've had dads on the podcast. I've had my friend Jamie and her mom were on the podcast to tell a story, but this is the first official couple. So yes, Todd and Morgan, I absolutely love it. You're going to hear them both answer questions and give some interesting perspective as we chat. Todd and Morgan are literally the stuff that dreams are made of. They met in Boise, Idaho, fell in love, and knew they shared a vision for the same kind of future. It looked like a house, kids, and a life full of adventure.
So it's been quite an adventure, and we ended up settling here in Manassas because it's where both of our parents are. So when we decided that we wanted to start a family, we knew we wanted to end up in Virginia.
Such a smart move, especially like that first phone call where you're like, please help, I need you. And there's somebody there on the other line that can drive to your house.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they say it takes a village to raise a child, but that is absolutely true.
Definitely.
Especially in our situation.
Both Todd and Morgan will tell you that moving closer to family was probably one of the smartest decisions they've ever had. Of course, they would have no way of knowing what was going to happen, but just after closing on their home, their first child and newborn baby was diagnosed with an exceedingly rare liver condition called biliary atresia. This disease affects about 1 in every 15,000 infants, and most require a liver transplant within their first year of life to survive.
Yeah, so at the very beginning, healthy pregnancy, healthy baby, and then when he was born, about, I guess, 4 to 5 weeks, I noticed that he wasn't eating well or latching well, not gaining weight, and actually others have mentioned James looks a little jaundiced, and we're like, oh, he's fine, and then it was summertime, it was 4th of July, and he got really sick after eating, and that really concerned me. So I made an appointment with a pediatrician, and the pediatrician and his team noticed how jaundiced James was, and they did, the heel prick, and he was so tiny, so that did not work. And then initially did the actual, poke from the needle to get that first blood drawn, a mini blood drawn.
I want to stop here really quickly to give some perspective about what Morgan is recalling. The way children and families receive care sticks with them long after it happens. Despite the unknown and fight or flight mode that Morgan was probably in, she still remembers down to the poke what it took to get blood work done for her son. After these first blood draws, the first of many, many blood draws, as Morgan puts it, they were transported an hour away to the transplant floor of MedStar Georgetown University Hospital, and they had their first official meeting to figure out what was happening with James.
The first admission was about, I think, 21 days, the very first admission.
You know, I think he's 2.5 years old now. Is that right?
Yes, he is.
And so he was just under, I guess, 2 months when you guys found this out. And I feel for you, Morgan, because I think about like breastfeeding your first baby is already so incredibly stressful, and you're constantly wondering, are they getting enough? And how do I know how much they get? So to notice that they're not gaining weight is just so stressful. And then you go to the doctor and find this all out. Did you guys have any idea that you'd be staying for 21 days prior to getting admitted to the hospital?
Absolutely not. The many trips that my family members went back to our house.
Yeah, that's not a short drive from Manassas to Georgetown.
No, you're absolutely right. And obviously we did not want to leave the sight of our, precious baby boy, because we were scared, and bless those who went back and forth to our own house and traveled back to gather our things to stay comfortable in the hospital. So little did we know that would be our very first admission. And then James was admitted back and forth almost every month leading up to his transplant. So by transplant, we knew what to pack, we knew what to bring, and we knew where the cafeteria was. We had it down pack to know what to bring when we had to go bring him back to the hospital to make sure
it's kind of strange, like how
he was okay.
Right, and how quickly you learn like what you need in these situations. Todd, can you talk to us a little bit about biliary atresia and what that means and what you guys knew to expect in the first year?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to James' diagnosis, we had no idea what this was. We literally never heard of it before. We've heard of babies being jaundice. I mean, that's a pretty normal, common thing. And then you put your baby under the light, and it helps them with their vitamin D, and then everything is fine. But in James' case, that would not work. As Morgan mentioned previously, the testing that James got, they were checking his bilirubin levels specifically. There were a handful of others, but that was the primary. And what it showed was that there was a major issue with his liver. James was diagnosed with biliary atresia. It is a disease that affects about 1 in 15,000 infants. These babies, most of them will require a liver transplant within their first year in order to survive. So there are specific surgeries that they can perform to, in some cases, when the baby is young enough, specifically when they're younger than 8 weeks, they can perform what's called a Kasai procedure, and it's basically rearranging some of the small intestines in order to bypass the bile duct, as you recall the term biliary atresia. It's actually a disease that affects the bile duct, and it could be marked by the absence of the bile duct or a blockage of the bile duct. But really, it really just prevents the liver from working at all. So that the surgery that I mentioned, the Kasai procedure, is really a last-ditch bypass procedure that works. James had his Kasai procedure, and unfortunately, it did not work for him. So he was immediately placed on the transplant list, where we had to wait until he was able to find a new liver from a deceased donor, or he was also able to receive a piece of a liver from a living donor. And ultimately that was the path that James took.
This podcast has typically yielded one side of the story. And what I mean by that is I've had one parent sharing. And because I had both Todd and Morgan, I was interested to hear what they thought each other's roles were during those months of waiting for transplant.
The whole situation took both of us by surprise. We were expected to learn about his condition. We were figuring out how to be first-time parents. We're figuring out, his doctors are throwing the words transplant out there, and we are just like, okay, what is going on here? Morgan was there 24/7 with James. She did not leave his side at all. She was in constant communication with James' doctors, with all the nurses, everyone. She was learning and absorbing everything incredibly quickly. Now, Morgan has a background in education, so I'm not surprised she was able to do that. Was also working at the time. I had continued to support the family in every way that I could. It was not easy balancing work and life and a tremendously sick baby. And not only that is I'm trying to also do my best to support Morgan and her mental health at the same time, while also recognizing that I need to focus on my own mental health. So in the end, I would say that both of us took on many different roles, but Morgan was absolutely James' number one resource.
That was wonderfully said, Todd. Thank you so much. I tried to stay off the internet because one of our wonderful doctors advised us to stay off the internet because it can be a dark, deep hole when you just keep researching or trying to research what this is and what can happen. And I took that advice and had other family members, if they wanted to research it, they may. So I took the role of constant communication with doctors and nurses and administrating all the different medications he was on. So,
well, it sounds like, you guys both took on roles really without even discussing it, right? It's like this is just what had to happen, and you both did it. And Todd, I'm so grateful to hear your perspective, because we don't have a lot of dads on the podcast. So you're right, like having to continue to go to work while your heart is being ripped out in a whole other side, like miles and miles away, and wanting to stay connected to your phone, that's a lot to have to deal with. So I really appreciate you saying that, and helping listeners and other parents understand that it, although Morgan was the one in the hospital, you were definitely feeling it all too. And Morgan, I imagine you got like that medical degree that you never anticipated actually getting.
Yes, I tease the residents sometimes, well, I know this too.
Yeah, I love that. And like Todd, honestly, the way you described his condition was very impressive. Like I would have you at a grand rounds for sure.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I think that it was just such an incredible moment in both of our history that we were forced to learn everything so quickly, but also we knew that we needed to learn everything that we could because our son's life was literally on the line. So I never knew that there was the strength inside my wife to keep going that there was, but I also found that strength inside myself. And in times of crisis, people often say there's that fight or flight, and both of us we definitely fought, and it was, I feel like my son battled himself, and he gave me strength as well. It was just it was just an incredible journey, and we thank God every day that we made it through. We learned so much throughout the process, and we were, our journey is not over.
We'll be right back. How old were you when you first read a fiction book starring a character who looked like you? For many American kids, the answer is high school or even college. The stories we tell our kids convey what is important, beautiful, and acceptable. If stories about our children of color are absent, we are sending a strong message about who matters and who doesn't. A Jambo Books subscription is like hitting the easy button for great diverse literature for your children. Every month, Jambo Books sends you 2 or 3 age-appropriate fiction books that star children of color. Jambo Books is a great gift for baby showers, birthdays, holidays, or just because. Learn more at jambobooks.com/childlife. That makes so much sense. And yeah, I'm just amazed at how these tiny children and babies and your specific experience literally can give you the strength that you never even thought of or heard of or seen before. It's pretty incredible. It's true. It's like you're having to battle between being empowered with information and advocate for your child, but also not receiving misinformation. And so I love your strategy of having family members look it up and then give you the need to know, right? Because I've actually heard other people doing that before, and I think it's just genius.
It definitely helps. And also, like, during the months leading up to transplant, you also learn medical terms. You learn, you also have a motherly instinct too, or a parent instinct. You just know what is right, what is wrong for your child. So I would not second guess doctors and nurses, but we would advocate for James, and that's where child life specialists come in, helping us advocate for James and also for us as well. And it's definitely helped having others research information that I just didn't want to go on the internet to look things up. So, yeah.
Yeah, that right. Or you may not have even had the time to do it.
Right.
So when we're going through our daily rounds and the doctors are throwing out terms left and right, it can be, Morgan's got her notebook there, jotting down every single thing, and we'll often have to go back and look, like, oh, what is this term, or what did he mean here?
Well, Morgan, do you have any advice for parents who, I love parents participating in rounds in the morning, but it can feel intimidating. It can feel overwhelming. You can not be able to focus because you literally have your child next to you. Do you have any specific advice on how to start getting comfortable in rounds and talking to doctors?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. Actually, no one has asked me that. It honestly took me, I think, about the first week, because these are brand new people, trying to figure out a diagnosis with your child. We also had, if you're able to, pre-pandemic, we would had others visiting us, and most likely they were there, and they also were able to join the rounds, to have another set of ears to listen and ask questions. And our team always advocated for family to be involved. And so if you're able to have other family members to be involved, if you feel comfortable, that made us comfortable. If you want answers, you need to ask answers. And I know it's really intimidating by these wonderful, brilliant, smart doctors and nurses. I think you just have to kind of get over that fear and anxiety. And if I had a question and didn't get it answered or forgot a question, I was able to ask the nurse, and the nurse would, communicate that with the doctor, and got our answers that way. Yeah.
That's a great idea. Like, I love teaming up too with the nurse, as you put it, right? And being like, I don't know how to ask this. Can you mention this in rounds? And we can both hear it together and, have them help you be a voice when you don't know how to articulate something. So what would you guys tell parents? I guess, 1 in 15,000 is a very, very rare chance that it could happen. What would you tell another family who is going through the beginning phase of this and, to where James is now post-transplant? What would you tell them?
So with biliary atresia specifically, in the beginning, time is of the essence. Getting that Kasai as early as possible is going to give your child the best chance survival, but also not having to go through the process of getting a transplant. If your baby is very jaundiced and your doctors will continue to, tell you that, it's just your baby's jaundiced, just get him out in the sun. A pediatrician will rarely ever come across this disease. So they may have heard about it in medical school or something like that, but it's so rare that that's not the first thing that they're gonna jump to. In our case, our pediatrician immediately set us on the right path by getting specific lab work, all the blood work that was needed. Somehow he knew, he had a feeling. Our particular pediatrician knew. If you, as a parent, have a feeling something is just not right, something is just not adding up, bring it up. Bring those concerns up. Tell your doctor that, or tell your pediatrician, like, hey, let's do some more testing. Check the bilirubin levels. Get a second opinion. After 8 weeks, the chances of a Kasai working are much, much reduced.
Yeah, I love that. And it's true. It's, you guys were in a position where you had that pediatrician who got it and took you seriously, and not everybody has that. So, finding that voice, or like Morgan was talking about earlier, to talk about those concerns is huge. And so you guys have mentioned a couple times how the team, at the hospital just made a world of difference in your hospital stay and your whole journey. Talk to us about what you decided to do with Child Life Coffee and what brought it up for you, and tell me about how the whole thing works. I just want to know.
First admitted, James had to have a liver biopsy the following day, and I remember I thought she was a nurse, but ultimately she's a child life specialist, and she had her little light up wand, and I was just like, who is that friendly face in this whole little room of doing the biopsy for James? And ultimately she's part of the child life specialist, and the whole team has been fabulous, but the child life specialists, they are there emotionally for your child. They meet their emotional needs and physical needs, and ultimately they're also there to support the caregivers and teach and educate the caregivers and the patient of all the medical terms, and prepare them as well. And so the team have been so wonderful to us, and we decided we want to give back to the program, just knowing James was not and is not the only child in the hospital settings. And so we decided to start a small business to sell coffee, Child Life Coffee.
child life specialists who are just provide such an essential role, throughout all the chaos and that is going on in the hospital, in the hospital room, on the hospital floor. I mean, things are moving 1,000 miles an hour, but those child life specialists know that, they understand that. They are there to just help the children and the families to cope with that stresses and just all the uncertainties involved. Those child life specialists, they truly inspired us. I mean, their desire to care, to serve, it really inspired us, and they provide all of this help, support, this love to families, all day, every day, and they see the pain, the struggle that families have to go through, and they just try to be there to help make it a little bit more easy to manage. And they do this with limited resources, limited funding, and that was the opportunity that we saw to be able to find some way to give back or to support those child life programs. But for us at the time, we're still going through this. We have no idea what tomorrow's going to bring. The experience of being in the hospital took a tremendous toll on both of us, both financially, emotionally, physically, and so we did not know how exactly we were going to give back to the child life specialists at this time.
When you're running on E and being in the hospital room and hearing the IV beeps and the nurses and doctors coming in and out, you do not get much sleep in that room. So we definitely ran on coffee, and unfortunately some hospitals don't have the best coffee, so we decided to provide coffee for the specific healthcare workers at Georgetown, and also sell coffee to give back to that child life program.
Oh, I just love that. That is so cool, because you are so right. Like, the look on a parent's face when I'm able to bring them a cup of coffee, or, they know that I can sit with their kiddo for a few minutes so they can go down to the bistro. It's just like coffee is life in the hospital. So it sounds like you guys felt that too.
Definitely.
So how do you guys support the Child Life program, and where can people get coffee from you? And even if you don't live in Virginia, can you still get it? How does it work?
We created our little coffee business. We actually partnered with some local roasters who have over 30 years experience. And what we do is we have a website called childlifecoffee.com, where you can go and select one of the many varieties of coffees that we have that are imported directly from farms from all around the world. And we roast and ship the same day. So you get super fresh coffee. You don't have to worry about coffee that's been sitting on the shelf in a grocery store for who knows how long. There's a huge difference that you'll notice. So, anybody can order any of our coffees at any time. We have a variety of flavored coffees, even holiday flavored
That's
coffees.
amazing. I'm just wondering, like, as you guys go and talk to different roasters, are you having to explain like what child life specialists are? Because the reason I ask is, as child life specialists, we are constantly explaining what we do to people because they're like, what are you? Who are you? What do you do? And I'm thinking about you guys as you're going to sell and you're saying Child Life Coffee. You're probably just as good at the elevator speech as we are.
Yes. People always ask us, like, what's child life? Are you pro-life? And it's like that's not really what child life means in this case. And even before, we had no idea what child life was before we started this whole journey. But our goal now is to really just be able to support child life programs through the sale of our coffee. So right now, as we're just starting out, we are giving back to the hospital where it all started, MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. We work directly with the child life coordinators there, and really just help them out with whatever they need. If it's a monetary donation to supply learning toys, arts and crafts for the kiddos, then that's what we do.
Well, I just can't say thank you enough for supporting child life programs in that way. It makes me want to cry. Just, thinking about what families go through and you're still going through, and the fact that you guys are looking for a way to give back and that you've created this business about it that just makes so much sense too and is so specifically helpful, is really amazing. So I think I can speak behalf of all child life specialists and professionals, and we just thank you so much and just really appreciate what you do. And I feel not only did you come on and share your story, which is incredibly hard to do, right, to go back to that time and think about how difficult that was, but Child Life Coffee too is just really awesome. So thank you so much.
No, I mean,
well, thank you.
we are so grateful for you and all the other child life specialists who were, until recently were so unknown to us, but now you guys are just, really, I mean, I want to say so close to the center of our lives right now and to our health and our journey. And we can't wait to continue to grow Child Life Coffee. We really want to be able to support more programs throughout the state, throughout the nation, and even throughout the world. So we're hoping to become those people.
Definitely.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And honestly, like the fact that you picked Child Life Specialists you worked with some pretty phenomenal healthcare workers at MedStar Georgetown. So it blows my mind that you picked Child Life to support. So, whoa. I mean, shout out to the MedStar Georgetown Child Life Department. They did their job, and I love it.
Absolutely.
They sure
did. Definitely. So childlifecoffee.com is how you order. And to follow us, you can follow us on Instagram, Child Life Coffee, and also on Facebook. That's where you can find us and see what we're up to.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being here and sharing James' story. And he has two pretty awesome parents. And thank you guys for doing this interview together. I love that so much. All right, guys, go get caffeinated at www.childlifecoffee.com. Also, stay tuned for next week's episode when I share my interview with James's Child Life Specialist. It was so fun and cool to chat with them and learn about ways they supported and inspired the emo family. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to the Child Life On Call podcast. I'm your host, Katie Taylor, and you can follow us at Child Life On Call on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please rate and review to make it easier for other families to find us. We have cute merch available at www.bonfire.com/store/childlifeoncall, and you can listen to more episodes and find resources at childlifepodcast.com.